Behave over there. Thanks, bro. Yeah, I think it's nice also there, Kurt Nate. Got to make sure and get him back in. Change the world, not just the United States, but change the world for everyone. How are you, Kurt? Miss Neat. What are you doing, Kurt Neat? What are you up to? What's new? That's good. Maayong, maganda. Coming in, guys. I see 5 sets of eyes. Don't skip. Just stay here. Stay here. Leave a comment. Let's chat. And Bella, where are you? Maring Kababayan. Where'd you go? Thank you, girl. Don't wash too many clothes. Don't hurt yourself. Hey, I got my my coffee in the mail today. I got a big 50 pack, you know, of those Keurig K-cups. That was the cheapest quantity. Buying them in a box of 50. And I got some Thai, it's called Lap Gai. That's the dish. Gai is chicken. Lap is the way it's prepared. And all you do is just pour the seasoning on top of the ground chicken and add a 1/4 cup of water and just start stirring till it's all mixed together. Put some cilantro and some red onions, stir it together after it's cooked, and then turn the heat off and it's done. You eat it on top of steamed rice, or if you don't want steamed rice, you can use lettuce and just do lettuce wraps. It's a really spicy ground chicken or ground turkey. Yeah, can I have one pitcher, really? Iced coffee. How about some iced coffee? That would be nice. A pitcher of iced coffee. We could have endless cups of iced coffee. Except the top broke to this cup. It cracked, so I had to throw it away, but now I can use the cup. Barely see the cup there. See, the top is broken. There's no plastic cover. So it doesn't keep it hot, but oh well. Kurt, need. Are you busy? Are you at home? Are you at work? What are you doing? Anybody else out there? Come in. Come in, guys. The Filipinos do this when they want you to come here. And the Americans go like this. Come here. I know coffee's dangerous though. Gosh, I gotta keep drinking water, or just lots of water after I drink coffee. Or I wake up in the morning with a bad headache, or I'm just constantly drying myself out by drinking coffee. What's up, everyone? 3 sets of eyes in the house. Who is it? Got girl in the mirror, Kurt Neat. Who else? Who's here? Come here, come here. Hey, I did something exciting yesterday. My wife and I have had a Lexus SUV for 16 years. And it had 194,000 miles on it. Engine running fine. I think it had lots of life left. But the suspension was starting to get the front end suspension was really starting to suffer. And I think I spent probably, more than $2,000 over a period of, 3-4 years. And no matter what I did, the front end sounded like it was something was going to fall off. And I would bring it to the mechanic, and the mechanic would say, "Oh, it's tight. There's nothing wrong with it." And I'm thinking, really? Did you drive it? Anyways, so I finally made the decision to upgrade. So I traded in the car. I only got $1,000 for it, and I bought a used 2020 Cadillac small SUV. I didn't even know Cadillac made this small. It's like a Honda CR-V. But it's a Cadillac. So it's, it's like a luxury, the luxury end of a small SUV. But it's the low end of the Cadillac. So the price was right, and now I have another car payment, but we can afford it right now. And yeah, I got rid of the Lexus and I bought a Cadillac. I'll have to take a picture, maybe show you on Friday. So I've been learning how to push all the buttons and navigate and scroll and all the settings, and so I'm still learning. Neat. Talk to me. Do you want to come up, Akyat? Konti lang. Just a little bit. Let me hear your voice. And you can log and continue with your duties or your routine. Up to you, up to you. I forgot, Courtney. You have children? I think you do. Remind me. You want to sing? No singing tonight, girl. Did you finish your wash, girl in the mirror? Ask Courtney in Tagalog if she wants to say hello. Come up on stage and say hello. Ooh, what's for lunch? Don't tell me. Sinigang. Chicken. Manok. Ista. All right. Kurt, are you married with children? I forgot. What is your status? Don't worry, Kurtnit. No dugo ilong. Just entertain the Filipino audience. You can speak Tagalog to them. You can help me. Oh, single mom. Okay, just one son? So your son only has half day today? Is he young? Like, ooh, did I really guess correctly? Sinigang bangus. Ooh, that sounds really good. Seven to 12. So early. 7 in the morning. And how old is he? Is he just like a grade school? Uh, fourth grade, fifth grade or something? Or younger? Oh, 7 to 120. Oh, well, he doesn't get off school yet. You still have 2 hours. Oh, grade 1. Yeah. So he's 6 years old. You took the words right out of my mouth. 6 years old. Yeah. Well, that's my granddaughter's age. She's 6 years old. Hmm. I think I asked you before, are you my daughter's age? Like in your mid 30s or early 30s? Is that right? My daughter just turned 36 in August. She has a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old. 12-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. I think I told you that before. Yeah, I can be your dad. And your children can be my grandchildren. Hmm. Just don't call me daddy. Joke long. Oh, you do? Oh, well, then you're older than 30s. That's what I thought. I remember my memory was you were older, older than my daughter. And I was trying to remember, only a 6-year-old? Gotcha, gotcha. Well, my son, my oldest son, my daughter's brother, he'll be 40 in November. Yeah, you see? That's right. You see, you're just 1 year older than my son. Yeah. Yeah, you were born 83, correct? Or are you going to be 42 before, are you going to be 42, sorry, 42 this year or next year? Hmm. Okay, you were born 83. My son was born 84. November 84. So you'll be 42 next year. Yeah, correct. What month were you born, Nate? Now, who's Kurt? Kurt is your eldest boy or your youngest? Oh, in March. All right. So yeah, you're just well, 1 year, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 1 year and 8 months older than my son. No, a year and 4 months older than my son. Oh, the youngest is named Kurt. Okay, okay. Yeah, I remember you told me that was the name of your son. And you still haven't told me your name. You just keep telling me to call you Neat. What is your given name? Just tell me. Do you remember my name? I think you do. Yeah, I know. I know. You keep telling me. Janet. With a H. That's different. You know, um, my mother's middle name is Jane. Norma Jane Homer is her maiden name. Norma Jane. Not Norma Jean like Marilyn Monroe, but Norma Jane Homer. Yep. That's an older name. I've met some Filipinas in Livestream named Norma. It's not uncommon. It's a Spanish uh, in Mexico, Latin America. They name their um, girls Norma. Yep. I don't understand that because in the province they call me Neat. Is that okay? Is that uh, I don't understand. Is that a Tagalog word, NIT, or part of or just a nickname? Just a nickname? Okay, girl. Did you finish the synagogue already? Or are you simmering while you go, Ligo? Just a nickname. Okay, okay. Yeah, I know the Philippines, obviously, have many nicknames. My asawa's nickname is, um, uh, what do they call her again? Oh my gosh, I'm hearing her dad call her. Her sister is Gamai. Uh, Her other sister is Dang or Dang Dang. Um, Her youngest sister, Gracia, is, oh my gosh, oh my gulai. What is her name? Her nickname? Um, uh, I'll 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 remember. But my Asawa, I'm forgetting my Asawa's nickname. What does her family call her? They call her um, oh my gosh, I forgot. Oh my gulai. um, Gosh, I'm trying to remember. What do they call my wife? Um, I forgot. But anyhow, everybody has a nickname. Her brother is he's Eduardo the second, um, but they call him Junjun because he's junior. And the other brother is also Eduardo the third. They call him Panoy. Um, and I can hear my wife's name, but it's like I can't remember. What is it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, Panoy is the youngest boy. Junjun is the eldest boy. And then there's three, four, three. Oh my gosh, my wife, Gracia, four girls. Um, Gracia is the youngest. Uh, my wife, Althea, her sister, Geraldine, and the eldest sister is that's Dang Dang. Um, why am I having a brain fart with the names? Geraldine and Genevieve. Yeah. So there's five of them total. Six, four girls and two boys. Yeah. And their mother, who unfortunately died back in 2002 when we got married in the Philippines, in Iloilo, 4 months later, her mom died. Crazy. Just heartbreaking. You know, I go to the Philippines for the first time, 2002. I get married. I meet mom. I meet dad. I meet the whole family. And then we come back to America after 1 month vacation. And 4 months later, in November, let's see, June, we got married in May, June, July, August, September, October. I think it was October. 4 or 5 months later, my wife gets a phone call from the Philippines. And then I got a phone call at work, and my wife is screaming and crying. I thought she got into an accident, in the car and got hurt. And she told me her mom just died in the Philippines. And I'm like, what? We just came back. And then, so she lost her mom in 2002. And then she lost her dad in 2017. Mom was only 54 years old. And then dad died at 63. He's my age. 1 year older than me. And her dad died. Here in America. We petitioned for dad and finally approved in 2010. And he came to California, was living with us. Yeah, mom was crazy. And then, so dad came from the Philippines, living with us in California. And then he wanted to visit his daughters in New Jersey, where I'm at right now. So we fly him to New Jersey across the United States. And he started living here in this area. And then maybe 1 year, was it 1 year? 2010? No, it must have been like 5 years later. He was visiting his youngest daughter, Gracia, in Maryland, which is like a 3-hour drive from my house. 3 hours. He was visiting, and all of a sudden we get a phone call from Gracia saying, just to let you know, we're in the emergency room in Maryland. Dad passed out in the front yard, or he fainted, got dizzy, and had to lay down on the ground. So they called 911 and they took him to the emergency room. So, he's awake and they're doing tests, and they do a scan of his brain because he was complaining, I think, of a headache. Yeah. And they did a scan of his brain, and they found a tumor the size of a quail egg in the middle of his brain. And it turned out to be malignant cancer. And 11 months later, Dad died. Like, took his life. He went through surgery. They removed the tumor. He was paralyzed after the surgery. He was living at home. You know, everybody's a nurse. All of her sisters are nurses. The aunt, Tita, is a nurse. So they're all taking care of Dad at home with the hospital bed, you know, the literally a hospital bed in the living room. And then after surgery, the tumor had already started to spread, and it put lots of pressure on the brain and eventually killed him 11 months later. So Dad died at 63. So no more Mom, no more Dad. Matter of fact, I have their picture. Let me show you. Right over here. Yeah, it was really sad. Dad died in Dang Dang's home. Genevieve's, the eldest sister. He was living in her home, in the living room, you know, in the bed. And yeah, I went over there and watched the whole grieving. It's crazy. You know, all the girls were there except Grasha. Grasha was in Maryland, and 3 of the daughters were, you know, just in tears, and Dad was there on the bed, and I think I was there when he took his last breath, and the paramedics were in the house. As a matter of fact, one of the ladies, the lady paramedic I used to work with here in New Jersey, I was no longer working. Like 3 years, no, I'm sorry, 9 years before he died, I was working with the company. And I remember recognizing the paramedic. It was a lady paramedic, and it was like, I know you. And I'm in the house now with, you know, her dad who just died. And yeah, it was really sad. So they flew him back to the Philippines, and had the funeral back in the Philippines. Yeah. Let me take off the background, and I'll show you Mom and Dad's picture. Excuse me 1 second. Yeah, see if I can. This was Mom at her wedding, at our wedding. That's Mom. Oh, if you can see my wife looks like a identical. Well, you can see a lot of my wife in her mom. Yep. And then her dad is Eduardo Senior, you know, Eduardo Bianzon, Colonel Bianzon, PNP. Yep. He's from Himamaylan Negros Occidental, and Mom is up in Lambunao, Iloilo. Gonzalez is her maiden name, the Gonzalez family. Her brother, she's the eldest. She's the eldest of 10 children. And then the next youngest brother is um, Tito Raynor Gonzalez, and he's the mayor of her hometown, Lambunao, Iloilo. Yep. So Tito Raynor is, what's his rank? He's also PNP. They work together. Um, Tito Raynor, my Asawa's papa, and there's one more. They were all in the PNP together. What's Tito Raynor's rank? Is General? General Raynor? What comes after Colonel? Colonel, and then it's Army. It's an Army rank. Colonel, the next one. I think that's Tito Raynor's rank. Yeah, there's 10 children on her mother's brothers and sisters. Oh my gosh. The youngest brother is younger than my Asawa's eldest sister. Crazy. Like maybe 1 year younger. They went to school together. Her uncle is about the same age, not my wife, but my wife's sister. Her uncle is like 1 year younger than her. And that's Tito Rod in Illinois. And his nickname is oh my gosh, there's so many. My wife gets mad at me when I can't remember everybody. And I say, Talaga or Tuod. It's like, how do I remember these people? And all the siblings and all of the children and all of the, oh my gosh, uncles and aunts. Okay, neat. I know. I will. Well, if you can come back and chat some more, please do. Let me put the pictures back here. Okay. Well, I'm a little bit late. That's probably why my channel did not get the... Oh yeah, you do. Well, go take your tabo tabo and go pick up your son. Does your son eat lunch at school, or you bring him home and feed him lunch? Probably bring him home and give him lunch, right? Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he eats at school. Aw, I didn't see this comment. Yeah, she takes after her mom. The more time I spend with my wife, I start to see her mom. You know, I can see. I remember her mom. by looking at my wife. He eats lunch at school. Okay, okay. Well, that's nice. Do you have to bring him lunch? I know that's a common. The family sometimes brings him lunch, or do you pack him a lunch, or do they make lunch at school? Yeah, 30 minutes lunch break. Right, right, right. Some things never change. You get older, you go to work, and then the workplace gives you 30 minutes. Oh, you bring him up. Yeah, you brought him lunch at 11. Yeah, yeah. Nice. Well, go take your legal. Yeah, 11:30. Boy, that sounds familiar. That was my lunch break in school, if I remember. 11:30. Yep. Yeah, I remember in junior high school, that was 7, 8, 9 grade. They had so much population. They had two lunches. So the first lunch was at 11:30 and the next lunch was at 12. 11:30 to 12 and then 12 to 12:30. Okay, neat. Hmm. I just remembered a medical story, or a story that I remember when I was a paramedic. I had the opportunity to give a class at a high school where they were graduating in June, and to prepare them for they were having their senior prom. I think that's what it was. You know, the dance, the senior prom, uh, near the end of the year. Also graduation, and the kids, are now driving, and they're trying to prepare them to, you know, leave the high school and be more independent. So a lot of kids will get themselves in trouble when they start driving, and so to prepare them for to keep them safe, they would ask the local um, emergency medicine medical services to send a paramedic and give a lecture on drinking and driving. Don't drink and drive. And I was uh, given the opportunity to give this class, and it involved a movie or a video. The name of the video was um, something red. What was the name of that video? It was anyhow. It was just a narrated video of motor vehicle crashes. Um, what to look out for, what not to do, and it was pretty graphic. They did show some actual on-scene photographs of, the what happens to a motor vehicle when it hits a tree or when it hits the wall or the guardrail. And then there was a few pictures of injuries on scene or after um, an accident. And I think there may have been a fatality picture. And every once in a while, when showing that video, some of the students would pass out in their chair from seeing that. And so when the lights would go out and the movie would be playing, I would keep my eyes scanning the room and make sure all the kids were okay. And all of a sudden, I hear this, ah, and the teacher's like, over there. And she's getting up to run over to the student. And I locate the student, and he's sliding out of his chair and onto the ground. And so I had to go over there and make sure he, was just reacting to the video and not having a true medical problem, like diabetes or a seizure or anything like that. And then eventually he goes to the nurse's office, or the mother is called, and but yeah, that it happens every once in a while when showing that video. And they even had a after school. Who's that? Come in, come in. If don't skip. I was saying the high school also put this dramatic, real scenario or skit out on the football field or in an open space in the parking lot, where they simulated a motor vehicle crash. And they didn't really crash two vehicles, but they took two cars from the junkyard and they put them together, like they were smashed and damaged. And then they moulaged or put makeup on students to simulate injuries and blood and so on. And they put them in the car to simulate, injured patients. And then they actually did this. They had police officers respond to from the city street into the school, down to the accident. And they had firefighters respond. So fire trucks came from the street. They had a helicopter in the air, and he landed in an open field nearby. And they treated it just like they would a real accident. And the paramedics would respond to the scene and package the patients, just like we would in, reality. And we would put these actors, on our gurney, and we would wheel them over to the helicopter and transfer them into the helicopter. And they really did get helicopter rides, and they would take off and leave the scene. And it was pretty cool. It's pretty realistic, to give. And the students were sitting in the seats or the grandstands, watching. And yeah, it was pretty, it was a realistic depiction of, what we did in the real world. other than the actual crash, but they did a good job with that. It was called MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD. And that was the organization that uh, sponsored or represented this or put on this scenario for the high school students. And they would travel around the county to the high schools, to the senior classes that were graduating, and put on this show for them to bring awareness, what not to do. Don't drink and drive and end up in this situation. And I've been there, done that, ran on calls, fatality, motor vehicle accidents, where high school students, one in particular, killed one of the passengers in his vehicle. Yeah, I remember flying a girl out of a motor vehicle accident in a helicopter, and she was pretty much unsalvageable. Well, we wouldn't have flown her if she was unsalvageable, but I knew she was really, really injured, and she ended up dying. I found out later. She died in the helicopter en route to the hospital, and the driver, the teenage kid, was asking the whole time, did I kill her? Did I kill her? And I remember telling him, well, we flew her in a helicopter, and she's hurt. She's really hurt. And I didn't know, if she was gonna die, but she did. And I'm sure he found out later, but those are the types of. And there were multiple people. I think there was like 4 people in the vehicle. 2 of them were very fortunate not to be hurt, and the driver wasn't hurt, and the passenger was a fatality. Yep, high school kids. Drunk. Yep. Alcohol involved. I think he ended up hitting a tree. Lost control, went off the road, hit a tree, and the tree went through the passenger side. Yeah, that girl didn't do very well. Yeah, trees are typically unforgiving when they're big enough. I've seen engine blocks, the entire engines of vehicles separated from the engine mounts out of the engine bay, out on the road. Mercedes-Benz in particular, I'm thinking of here in New Jersey. A guy hit a tree. We actually worked on him and ended up pronouncing him right there on the street. But I remember electing to intubate him, meaning putting a tube into his trachea to see if I could, get a heartbeat, at least get a heartbeat back. People don't need to breathe necessarily when I can breathe for them. But if they have no heart rate, then it doesn't matter if I breathe for them. That's you got to have one before you have the other. So if you can get their heart rate, or at least get a rhythm and produce a pulse where you can feel the heart producing enough pressure to create a pulse, then they might just have a chance. Usually the head injuries is what kills people in trauma. They can lose a leg and an arm and limbs and still survive. But if you cut a person's head off or you take their heart out of their body, they don't survive. So you got to keep the brain alive and you got to keep the heart alive. Been on those calls where they have heartbeats and their heart's beating fine, but their brain is scrambled and they end up surviving in the hospital on life support, but their brain is beyond repair. And that's when families have a hard time making decisions as to what to do for their, for their family members or their loved ones. They're hoping that a miracle is going to somehow repair their brain, and it doesn't. The brain doesn't. When it's injured bad enough, it's hard to survive something like that. So, Josh, there he is. I was kind of getting a little morbid there, telling about, some actual calls that I ran on in the civilian world. And forgive me, but it's just me and my morbid paramedicine way of thinking, where, to the layperson, it's pretty brutal and gross, I guess would be for a better word. But to me, it's real. I mean, I ran on it. I looked at it and I watched it, and you just try to do your best with what you have, and then afterwards talk about it and freak people out because of the way, how casually I talk about, those types of injuries. But it's not anything that isn't real. It happens, as you know. Bad things happen. I was going to say, I was always told in emergency medicine, it's hard to kill somebody. Literally, trauma. It's hard for trauma to actually kill a body. You need either, number one, decapitate them or put a bullet through their head. But even then, that's not necessarily going to kill them. People have survived some pretty devastating ballistic injuries to the head, to the brain. So that's just another example of, just because you put a bullet through their head doesn't necessarily mean you're going to kill them. You might maim them for life, but they'll survive. If their heart's still beating, with a bullet through their head. I'm telling a call right now, in particular, a guy, tried to end his life by putting a bullet in his mouth out the back of his head. He was successful at doing that. But when we got there, his heart was beating fine. And now he's more than likely a vegetable for the rest of his life, because he's got a 38 round, going through his brain. But, even that's just an example of, it's hard to kill somebody. Now, if you put a bullet through their heart, now think about that. You got to be pretty lucky to put a round through their heart. That's a good shot. It's a blind shot. Even killing an animal, you're aiming for their lungs, and then every now and then, that round goes through the heart. And that's even quicker. But you can put a bullet through somebody's lungs. That's survivable. That's survivable all the time. But if you hit their heart, that's pretty devastating. That you can't, you'd have to be right there in the OR where the surgeon can actually, do what they call a thoracotomy. Your thorax is where the thoro comes from, your chest, and open you up and try to do the repair and, keep the heart alive. But So, you shoot somebody in the chest, and unless it hits the heart, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to kill him. Even when you got a bullet going through their lungs, that's pretty devastating, but it's survivable. You can cut somebody's arm off. You can cut their leg off, and people survive. So it really is hard to kill somebody with trauma. Yeah, and it held true when I was told that. Um, I'm a sponge absorbing all this, listening to the more veteran paramedic telling me, my preceptor telling me this. And then through the years, after my years were done, I now look back and realize that's absolutely true. Not most of the motor vehicle accidents and gunshot injuries and traumatic, injuries, period, knife, bullets, blunt trauma, i.e. motor vehicle accidents and or anything else that hits you, doesn't kill the person. It just hurts them really bad. More people die from just natural aging, diseases, heart disease, lung disease, combination thereof of the two. Long-term progression of diseases, like diabetes over many, many years, eventually kill a body. That's just the nature of the beast. And you don't necessarily have young people that die from that type of stuff. Elderly people die from disease and illness because they're older. They've had more time for those diseases, to progress and kill them. And that's what our bodies do. They die because of age, disease, time. But most motor vehicle accidents that we run on, rarely are there fatalities. Are there? Yes, I've told stories about them already, but that's the exception. That's what Hollywood covers. And then the lay public thinks that, they think wars, are all about IEDs, bombs, and mortars and rockets. Are there? Yes. But from a percentage standpoint, it's the exception. And unfortunately, you were involved in one of those exceptions. That was actually happening more so than an exception. But for the amount of people that were actually deployed, at the time, and if you did a percentage, what percentage did you fall into, was a small percentage, of the amount of people that were actually deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. So what's up, Mr. Eason? Ison, sorry, I remember now. Ison. What's new? Sorry I'm late. Been actually busy. You didn't hear, but I bought a new car. We were talking about it. Remember I said I was looking at a car online? Well, I ended up buying it. And actually I found something that was different. Didn't even know it existed. But I've seen a lot of, remember I was saying the neighbor had a new GMC, and then you started telling me about your truck and so on. Well, I found a Cadillac small sized SUV. It's kind of like the Honda CRV, or I'm starting to see all of them. GMC makes one. It seems like all the manufacturers are making these small, compact SUVs. Subaru, uh, Toyota, the RAV4, and so on and so forth. Those little small, boxy, kind of small SUVs. Well, Cadillac makes one. And when I think Cadillac, I think luxury. So I'm thinking, what's this all about? What do they do to this little vehicle, to keep it in the Cadillac inventory? And the price, I think I told you, was like too good to be true. I thought $19,999 for a Cadillac, and it's 2020 used with 51,000 miles. And I thought, wow, that's kind of in my price range. Trying to keep it under $400 a month. And if it goes over a little bit, that's okay, but that's the range. And that's what I ended up getting. The car that I saw online was sitting down in the lot still. And he brought it out, and everything kind of fit what I was looking for. It's got a little bit of pep to it. It's turbocharged. It's 2.0 liter. It's only front wheel drive, which, as opposed to the all-wheel drive, which they do have, but we're talking in the $30,000 range. And I didn't want to be making $500-600, car payments. So that was out, and I needed a trailer hitch to tow my, kayak trailer, little 4x8 trailer. And it didn't come with a trailer hitch, but it has the ability to have one put on. And they didn't do it there at Cadillac. I'd have to do it on my own. I said, that's fine, as long as it's modifiable. And it is. So I went ahead and made the purchase and did the paperwork yesterday, finished it. Here, get this. You haven't commented yet back, Josh, so I don't know if you're still listening, but I'll continue. I try in the past, I've always tried to I'm thinking of the verse. Blessed is the man that walketh, that takes repeated steps. Blessed is the man that takes repeated steps in the counsel of the godly, or sits in the counsel of the godly, or stands in the way of the godly, etc. In other words, get advice from the godly before, doing everything, if possible. And if not, at least pray about it. And I didn't do that when going down to the Cadillac dealer. So I'm getting somewhere with this story. So I scheduled to go down in the afternoon yesterday, in which I did, right around 2:30 in the afternoon. And then I went in blind, never been to a Cadillac dealer before. And they had their showroom was a GMC, Cadillac, and what else? Chevrolet. So they had Corvettes on this one showroom. Oh my gosh, I thought they were Lamborghinis. I haven't seen the modern Corvettes. And their price tags are like $134,000 to $180,000 for these Corvettes. And there's like a slew of them out on this showroom floor. And they got the luxury, Cadillacs and yada, yada, yada. So I'm thinking, there's something wrong with these numbers that I'm looking at online. A Cadillac can't be going for, $19,999. I almost thought it was the amount of money they required down on a particular vehicle. That made more sense. But I thought, no, I've never seen a car dealer want $20,000 down, on any vehicle. So it didn't make sense, but well, the only way to find out is to go down there and look at this thing. And sure enough, they took basically they replicated, the small SUVs that are out there on the road now from all the different manufacturers, and they did their Cadillac flare on the interior and the push button bells and whistles, and the standard options that they have these days. But being a 2020, 4 years old, it doesn't have as many bells and whistles as the vehicles that are coming out today. Adaptive cruise control, where the car keeps a distance between the car in front of you. It has the ability to have that, but it doesn't have that. That's just an example, etc. So I checked it out, and actually, let me get to the point. What I was saying, or getting to, was the sales guy was, didn't realize he was as young as he turned out to be. He's 21 years old. He's going to be 22 soon. But the presence that he held, he's 6'4", 235, and not an ounce of fat on him. This guy's lean, mean, and you can see that's just an expression. Lean and mean. He's cut. He's got a chest on him. You could tell he works out. And I'm like, dude, handsome, looks like a model. That just describing his presence. And he kind of has, like, the part of the world that I'm from kind of look about him. Blonde, Swedish kind of looking. Although I'm not Swedish, and my heritage is Scottish. And come to find out, his is Irish. And I said, imagine that. I said, you look like my brother, like you could be my brother when he was younger, but even more handsome than my brother. And me. Anyhow, so, I'm sitting there standing looking at this kid, pretty impressed just by how he looks and the way he's dressed. And we were talking over coffee before we sat down and started the deal. And the subject I was talking about at the time to one of the female sales clerks on the floor was about genetics and DNA. And somehow we got on that subject. And I was telling her about Dr. Carter that I went down and saw, I've talked about, and his presentation and his videos, and et cetera, et cetera. So that went down the line of showing how humankind can be shown to have an original male and an original female, having come from one original male and female. So you can kind of see the line that I was, without talking about in the beginning God created directly, I was indirectly leading them down that road by talking about that. And then his name's Declan. That's the name of the sales guy, Declan. And Declan came in to the conversation, and so he was interjecting along with us. And then eventually we separated, and I went into his office, and we sat down and started crunching numbers. And soon thereafter, he turned to me and he says, "Are you a man of God?" And I was like, "Yes." And I said, I think I said, why did you ask? Or what made you ask that? And it was because of what I was talking about and the line, that I was uh, going down with that subject. And uh, he was sharing some similar research that he had done and facts that he knew in regards to that. So he kind of assumed maybe he's, knows the word, knows the truth as well. So he asked me and I said, yes, I am. And then next thing you know, just to make a long story shorter, I was there from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock that night, 8:30 p.m. closing the deal. We were the last two people on the showroom, except for the boss. He came in at the end as we were leaving the doors, and I was going to my new car to drive it away. But we ended up sharing, sharing our hearts with each other. Transparency the whole time we were there together. Tears and all. It was crazy, never saw that coming. It always happens that way, the Holy Spirit ends up moving in you and you're just, man, tears welling up in his eyes. It was just crazy. It was like we could have been preaching. Too bad we didn't have, an audience of 500 people to hear what we were sharing. And he was telling me he's 21 years old, yet to be 22. And he tells me, and in looking the way he did, GQ model looking kid, is fit and healthy looking, just, I can't say anymore. He just had that look. And he tells me, yeah, I'm an ex-drug addict, a homeless person, alcoholic. And I'm like, what? Wait. And that's when I asked him, how old are you? And he says, oh, I'm 21. I'll be 22 in. And I thought, wait. If you're only 21 years old, when did this happen? How old were you when you got to that point? He was in his teens. And he kind of brushes, doesn't go into detail. Yeah, I had a rough upbringing. And I'm thinking, yeah. And I was like, and then we started, so did you know Christ before any of this? Oh, no. Atheist all the way. And I'm like, wait, how'd you get plugged in to the truth? And he said, my older brother. He's in prison right now for life, for murder. And I'm like, what? Your older brother, 5 years older than you, is serving life right now for murder. And he's like, yeah. And you learn Christ through your brother? It's like, yep. Unbelievable. I was just like one thing after the other. And I'm sharing my testimony and my upbringing and how I didn't have, my mom and dad didn't know, and so on and so forth. And who would know that I'd end up in Camden, New Jersey, and by the Campbell Soup Factory, preaching the gospel to homeless people on the street. And we were just like one story after the other, after the other, after the other. And we were doing 50% of sharing our testimonies with each other, and the other 50% we were doing paperwork and crunching the deal, and making the deal. And it was amazing, and tears interjected in between all of that. And it was just crazy. It was just unbelievable. The best evening, heart strings everything. It was just, who would have known that that's what I was going to walk into at the Cadillac dealer? Yeah, wild. I introduced Reformers Unanimous to him, and he took down the information and pulled up the website on his phone, and he got plugged in, yeah, to Christ through his brother in prison. He told me that story. It wasn't right away. It was, resistance and reluctance, and the story repeats itself with many people. It's pretty cool. And now he's a big jiu-jitsu and MMA. He told me, he says, yeah, I got to tell you, I got to be transparent, but I may be off the street and cleaned up and doing well and have a job and healthy, in the best shape I've ever been in my life, but I've got this addiction of striking people. He says, for some reason, it's just like that's my focus. Which I guess kind of goes hand in hand with what he used to know. But it was just really, really cool to hear his story. And, I kept standing back and looking at him head to toe going, man, am I really looking at a person that has that history, that deep of a history already? And he's above his years and in the way he talks and the way he thinks. And I was learning from him and listening to him and how the Word of God was guiding him and what he was getting out of certain passages and stories. He even said, after hearing about my 19-year-old, who's only 2 years younger than him, I told him the fortunate upbringing in school that my son, had the privilege of being a part of from the time he was 4 years old until he graduated from high school, and how I wasn't able to this day, I don't process. He said it the best. He used the right words eventually. And that's what I was trying to say. I don't process things like my son does when it comes to just talking about like girls or sex or life or whatever, the birds and the bees and things like that. The way I process that type of stuff is coming from the spoon that I came from, that fed me from in the beginning, as well as what I know now. And they conflict with each other. So what comes out of my mouth isn't necessarily what he's thinking, and nor did he ever think that way, nor does he think that way to this day, nor will he think that way. But what's coming out of my mouth, and my son even said once, like, I can't believe you went there with that. He even said, that sounds kind of gross, Dad. And I had to think about why did he think that about what I said? And I was even like defending myself, trying to defend myself. Oh, don't tell me that if you were in a room together with a girl as at your age, that if you spent enough time with her, that your mind or your thinking wouldn't be going down, a certain path. And he's looking at me, he's like, why would I? And I thought, what do you mean, why would you? You're a guy just like I am. But his mind isn't corrupt like mine is. So those thoughts aren't even there. And that's hard to fathom from the way I process things. But there are people out there that didn't get exposed to what I got exposed to. So when you talk about that kind of stuff, you know, that neural pathway isn't there. I remember in the past reading a book before I knew better, that you look at like the brain is a slate of wax that has been untouched. It's just smooth. And as memories coming through your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, and your touch, your senses, these pathways get carved in this wax. It's like a hot stick or a hot match being dragged across that plate of that sheet of wax, and it leaves a pathway. And those pathways that were ingrained in my mind, they're not in his mind. He's never been exposed to that kind of stuff, thank God. And people say, "Oh, well, your son's going to have a tough time um, in life, in the future, because he hasn't been exposed to certain things." And I'm like, I used to think that way too. But that's called protection. That's protecting your child. You don't send him into a gang house or into a drug den so that he knows what's going on in there and expose him to that danger. You do your best as a parent to keep him from that kind of stuff, so he never even knows what goes on in those types of situations. Does he hear about it and get warned, that this type of stuff does go on, and to avoid it? Absolutely. But you don't send him in there, So, yeah, it was, we went down that he said, I'm sorry, I get back to my point with that, where I was going with that was, this 21-year-old last night tells me, what it would be to have a son one day like yours, he said, that doesn't process things like I do. And I went, that's what it was. That's what I was trying to say. I was telling him, I can't even think like my son or imagine how he, and I'm going to use his words, how he processes things. Because I don't. And he said, what it would be to have a son one day. And I thought, wow, he's 21 years old. And he's already saying that. I was 45 when I had that opportunity and was introduced to that life, that alternative life. And I just thought, man, we talked about our testimonies and how powerful our testimonies are, having had that exposure. And he's 21 years old. I told him, my Lord, dude, you need to preach. You need to share your life with kids that don't know, and let them know what happened to you. And my God, how many kids can be affected by a speech like his. What he told me last night was profound. It was so good. I was just like, God, only God knew that I was going to be in the presence of this kid last night. It's pretty cool. Yeah, really, really, really blessed to have met that young man. So actually, I've got his, I think he left his email address and his phone number on the paperwork uh, that I took home with me, from the transaction. And he's moving, probably not going to be in this job too much longer, he said. He's moving to Philadelphia, start another chapter of his life. And yeah, how cool. Really cool to run into that kid. Well, I don't know what happened to you, Josh. And if anybody was listening, uh, it looks like, what, 6? No, 0. 0 people in the house. So I might have just been preaching to the choir, or nobody may have been hearing me. But that's okay. Now, see, I can take this live stream after I'm done, and then edit it with the StreamYard editing tools, and cut it into shorter videos, or take out the good sections, like this talk that I just got done talking about, and then put it up on YouTube and actually turn it into a short down to 30 seconds or a minute or less, and then it becomes a short to this live stream, and you can reference this live stream, or connect the short with the full-length live stream and direct people, to its original source. So anybody else out there? I might make this a short live stream tonight. It doesn't look like the population is coming in and stopping. Let me make sure I got, yeah, I just thought, can anybody hear me? Yeah, they can hear me. Test, test, test. Yep. Still got good audio and video. Yep. Everything's good to go. Maybe I'll hang out for a little bit longer to see if maybe Josh had an errand to take care of, or maybe he fell asleep. I don't know. Yeah, I wonder if yeah, I'm sure YouTube will probably flag this little 15-second short. I could try it, but it'll shut the live stream down, so maybe not. I think I learned the hard way the first time. Hello, hello. Anybody out there? Test, test, test. Excuse me. Oops. I didn't mean to stop the cam, but it looks like it's going to do that. Let me do something here. Okay. Maybe that background will do something to the algorithm. And, aha, right as I said that, some eyeballs, come in, just pop back in. Who is it? Who is it? As soon as I pop that background on. Anybody? Hello, hello? Are you there? Don't skip. Up. Too late. All right. I got something to occupy my, satisfy my hunger as well as something to do. Running out of coffee though. There's Old Glory right there. All right, let's break the monotony here.